watching CramerSez.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Kramer. This is the CramerSez podcast. It is Wednesday, May 22nd. We've made it to hump day, so you can start relaxing. It's all downhill from here. Our guest today is going to be Jim Hoft. We'll get to that in a moment. Hey, if you haven't checked out CramerSez.com. It's a free speech platform. You can go there. You can say whatever you want. You can post. You can create groups. You can create communities. You can do all kinds of stuff that you can't do anywhere else. Why? Well, because it's 100% free speech. Get your butt over there. Get yourself an account. CramerSez.com. We're also helping out the J6 detainees. Been doing this for over a year, trying to raise $100,000. We're doing that through the sale of T-shirts. You can go to CramerSez.shop and peruse what we have available there. Pick out your favorite design and help an American political prisoner. You can do that today at CramerSez.shop. With that being said, we'll come right back after this and talk to Jim Hoft, founder of the Gateway Pundit.
America's political prisoners need our help. CramerSez is on a mission to raise $100,000 or more. Can you help? Join our mission today at CramerSez.shop. CramerSez is everywhere. Twitter, Truth, Instagram, and always on America's fastest growing free speech platform, CramerSez Social. Make your free account today at CramerSez.com. CramerSez is back.
There we go. We are back. Jim Hoft, our guest today. Jim, welcome to the show.
Hey, great to be with you, Tim. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Last time we talked, you were headed to D.C., to the Supreme Court. And it's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about today is the banana republic that we're currently living in. You had to go to D.C. to defend your rights. Talk about that, how the case ended, where it stands right now, and then let's get into the rest of this banana republic bullshit we've got going on across the country.
Yeah, it's been quite a few months since we spoke, Tim. I went to the Supreme Court. That was back in March. It was cold out, and our case was heard in front of the Supreme Court. Really interesting to be inside the court and, of course, to hear your name mentioned several times from the justices and the prosecution and the defendant. I don't know. I guess that isn't the exact words, but from both sides, we're saying Jim Hoft. So that was really kind of surreal. It was the case, of course, is Missouri versus Biden, or Murphy versus Missouri is what it's actually called now. And it's about free speech and how the Biden regime believes that they have the right to stifle speech in America today. So after 230 or 40 years of having this wonderful republic, we have an administration today that believes they have every right to pick and choose what Americans can hear, what they're going to be able to see. And so that's what they've been doing. And Gateway Pundit is a victim of that. And so that's why the Missouri Attorney General's office originally came to us. They knew, because we had been in correspondence with them, and they knew that we had had this issue with the government. And so we were the lead plaintiff there. As far as where the case stands now, they heard the oral arguments in March, and we should know something in June. So next month, they're going to make a decision, and God willing, they'll make the right decision, or our country will be changed forever. But
I agree.
As you know, with this administration, it's already being changed in ways we never thought we'd see.
Well, exactly. I mean, I'm looking at the front page of the Gateway Pundit this morning. One of the biggest stories coming out yesterday was that the Biden administration authorized deadly force on the raid on Mar-a-Lago. I mean, This is craziness.
Unbelievable. And of course, they had Secret Service there. Everything. The Trump administration, the Trump people were working with Biden and his folks. They allowed them to come in several times. Everything was under lock and key. The media, of course, has misrepresented this continuously. And what's disgusting too, and I see this all the time, even when they talk about Gateway Pundit, when they talk about me, it's always some BS. It's just right. This media is never ever accurate or honest with the American people anymore. They played this off like it was just something normal, like it was a Tuesday walk in the park. Right. This is unprecedented, of course, Tim. And now we're finding out more details, which is just absolutely shocking.
Well, it's amazing to me that the media has done what they've done. They've told a tale, this narrative that they have, and what they've left out. And I was amazed at the ignorance of Bill Maher. Not sure if you saw his appearance with Megyn Kelly, where she just eviscerates him on the facts, where he's saying, well, nobody has ever said that the elections were rigged, and forgetting that Hillary Clinton for 4 years screamed that at the top of her lungs, that it was rigged and that Trump was illegitimate. Is the ignorance of the left because the media doesn't cover it, or is it willful?
That's great, or both, right? Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of video out there of what all the Democrats said when Trump won, and it's just like now they're running on this. We got to save democracy. But if you look back when Trump won in 2016, you'll see clip after clip after clip where they're saying we need to end democracy. Democracy isn't working anymore because, of course, they lost.
Right.
And Trump won probably in a larger landslide than than what was came out with the final results. And so yeah, so everything they say, they count on the media to cover for them. And that's exactly what the media does continuously. It's just covers for the left, and so we never get a clear picture. And I can't believe that people still, are following this warped media that's wrong about everything.
Well, not only warped and wrong, but lie. I mean, just straight out lie to you. And repeating, a great example is what Joe did in the last week. I mean, how many speeches has he done here recently where they've had to go back and walk back what he said, and well, you really didn't mean that, and that's not what he meant, and that was taken out of context, and don't believe this. Jim, if the media doesn't do their job in correcting what's wrong and saying that's a lie and calling people out, instead of picking sides, where do we end? Where does this end if we keep going down this path?
Well, it's certainly something we wouldn't expect to see in the United States, and I may have mentioned this to you before. When I was growing up, my dear mother would say, in China and Russia, they have to read between the lines in the media to get the truth. And, we have a free press in America, and that's an important thing. And, unfortunately today, you don't have to read between the lines with our media. You just have to discard it and go look for yourself for the facts, because everything they say is inaccurate. What's interesting, as you say, about fact-checking Biden, the only people that fact-checked him was actually his own administration, who admitted during his NAACP talk that he made 9 inaccurate statements. 9. And they had to go back and correct what he said. And that wasn't the media. That was actually the administration who corrected him. So
why do you think they're doing that now? Why do you think that they're coming forward and saying he made mistakes? Do you think there's any validity to the rumor that they're going to replace him at the convention?
Well, you know what? I predicted that what would happen with Joe Biden. I actually wrote a post on this, and that was last year when I wrote that Joe Biden, we're going to find out, he's going to slip in the shower. He's going to have an accident. It's going to be serious. We're going to have to, he can't continue. And then they're going to bring out whatever they do, right? They like to pretend it's democracy, but of course they boxed Robert Kennedy out of the party because he was a threat, and they wouldn't allow him to be part of the primary process. So they're just, they could just throw somebody in. But I do predict, as I said, it's going to be unlikely if they run with Joe Biden, but I could definitely see him being taken out to pasture, and of course there'll be the glowing story about what his statement has been, and such a hero and fighting corruption and standing with the children. Right. They're not going to say anything about his corrupt family, the cocaine in the White House, his perping on children and women constantly, the fact that he couldn't speak anymore and could barely walk. So that's my prediction. Will it happen at the convention? I don't know. And are they going to put Kamala as president?
Well, I don't think that happens. I don't think that nobody in their right mind would put her up. The rumor keeps coming back that it's going to be Michelle Obama. Michelle says that she's not going to do it, but man, she's doing a lot of press right now. And I look at all of the action around what people are doing as opposed to what they're saying, right? Oh, I'm not going to run. I'm not going to run. And then you find out, well, they've had a exploratory, committee in place for months. And so it wouldn't surprise me. I think that that's where the American people are, Jim. I think that they look at what you and I and others have been saying for the last 4 or 5, 6, 7 years. And it sounded like what we were saying early on was conspiracy theory, but time and time again, we've proven to be correct because we're not using conspiracy. We're using utilizing the logic of what tactics and strategies they've used before and what is most likely to be used this time because, well, they ruined that. I don't see another pandemic coming down the pike. I don't see them using that as an excuse in our lifetime again. I think they burned that one to the ground pretty good. Unless they release something that's a pathogen that is deadly, right? That does do what they want it to do. And when you say that, well, it sounds like you're crazy. Well, they were telling us just a few months ago that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation, and now they're fighting, from it being released. Ashley Biden's diary was. It was all BS, and now she's in court, hoping people go to jail for stealing that exact same diary that she said wasn't hers. So I think the people are starting to wake up. My problem is, or my issue is I don't think it's enough people. I think it's happening too slow. What do you think?
I don't know. I think a lot of people are turning on Joe Biden. I think a lot of that, of course, is the economics here in the United States since he took over. And I think that's why he's going to the Bronx tomorrow. And we're going to have a crew there, by the way. Some people from Gateway Pundit will be there talking to the locals and asking them, what they think of Joe Biden. One of our reporters, Kara Castronova, by the way, had been to the Bronx in December. She decided to go down there, as she was working with Newsmax also at the time. Did this report. She talked to locals about, Joe Biden. How do they feel about Joe Biden? No one liked him.
Right.
They wanted Trump back. And I asked her afterwards when she put this clip together, I said, Kara, how many people did you have to talk to get this, put this clip of several people saying they want Trump? She said, Jim, literally everyone I spoke to on the street, every single person was saying the same thing. And so I think going back to your question then, Tim, it's I think that there's so much movement against Joe Biden, against Democrats. I think there is an awakening in areas that we never thought we would see. And in fact, I'm going to throw this in it too, Tim. We're sponsoring a concert in Miami. We will be the sponsors for this Waka Flocka Flame concert, right? He's a top rapper.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to have to spruce up my, knowledge of the rap world. But we're going to be we'll be sponsoring this concert. This is in June, and he's coming out for Trump. This is a prominent rapper. Yeah. And we're doing a series of these concerts. But this is showing you just how much the American people have turned against this Democrat Party. Now, what's going to be interesting is, of course, they're running Joe Biden, which should be the red flag, in your face, waving in your face that they're planning on cheating. Because you cannot run somebody like this who can't even speak, who can barely, walk. You're afraid every time you see him walk that he's going to take a nosedive. He does fall down a lot. He doesn't know what's going on. And they could never run someone like this 20 years ago.
No.
Somebody like Joe Biden. No way. And so this is a red flag that the cheat is on. And Republicans better wake up and take some action before Election Day, because Election Day is too late. So anyway, it's going to be interesting for them to explain their victory when everybody's turned against them, even the minority communities.
Well, they had a big explanation to give in 2020, right? I mean, we saw what happened in 2020. There wasn't 81 million people that flocked to Joe Biden. He doesn't have 10 million that he can count on right now. Everyone sees it, and I think that's the part that scares me most, is that it's when the bully on the playground says, "I know that you know what I did, but I don't care. I'm just going to do what I'm going to do." And it's that old mentality. I heard this the other day. So you caught me. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're at, right?
I heard someone explain to me, because it's so outrageous, this behavior, and it's so in your face, and it's such gaslighting. Like James Comey goes out yesterday and says, I'm really worried that Trump's going to go after his political opponents if he gets in. And wouldn't that be horrible? And aren't we all afraid of that? And I'm like, are you watching what's going on? He's got 91 charges against him. This Jim Comey's just out of his mind.
Well, in fact, let's go to that real quick, because I brought that up. I had that queued up for this. I wanted to get your opinion on this. For the others that didn't see it from yesterday, this is James Comey. The fear in his eyes is, well, you can see it for sure.
If Trump is reelected, I mean, when you think about a second Trump administration, what do you think the implications would be for the FBI?
Oh, serious. For the Justice Department and the FBI, because Trump is coming for those institutions. He knows their power, and I think he has regrets that he didn't work hard enough to corrupt them last time. So he's coming for them, and that's a danger for all Americans. He's going to put people in positions in those organizations. He didn't have all-stars the last time. He'll have the bottom of the barrel this time. But people who will want to do his will, and that should worry every American. This election matters. Because of a reason like that, people have to participate. You cannot sit on the sideline.
Former FBI head James Comey advocating for Joe Biden after saying that he wasn't picking sides, saying that he was apolitical, that he didn't care, and now we find out, well, maybe he was. Maybe he was lying a little bit more than he was telling the truth. Jim, how scared do you think that the FBI, especially James Comey and his ilk from that period, do you think that Trump will go back after them? Do you think that it'll be the revenge tour that they're calling for?
Well, I certainly hope so, because the FBI is completely broken, as we reported yesterday with the new articles that we had coming out. I think it's absolutely appalling that James Comey could say something about Trump corrupting the FBI.
Exactly.
And this is after he, in charge of the FBI, had started an investigation against candidate Trump and then President Trump, while he was in office, based on what they knew when they started the investigation was complete, nonsense.
Right.
They knew it wasn't accurate, and yet they went after Trump anyway. This man is so corrupt, and to hear him say, what he just said, it just makes your jaw hit the floor, because, again, talk about gaslighting. And these people, the media, of course, they just let him talk, and they just agree with him. And, oh, my God, this is going to be horrible. Are they watching what's happening? They got Trump in this courthouse in New York now this is his 6th week, where he must sit there or he's going to be, imprisoned?
Right.
It's unbelievable. And James Comey saying this stuff, he is a really wicked person, really wicked. And you could point that out. The sad thing is, these people were never confronted when Trump was in office.
Yep.
Trump didn't have the people in his administration who had the balls to confront these people. Of course, the Republican Senate didn't have the balls either. Lindsey Graham had promised numerous times, over and over and over and over, that he was going to bring in these people from Crossfire Hurricane, and they were going to, get to the bottom of it, and he was going to grill these administration officials. He never did it. He called in Rod Rosenstein, the only official he called in, gave him a nice, soft little fluff, interview. Everybody was nice to Rosenstein, even though he was behind all of this corruption, all of their attempted coup of Donald Trump. And so, it's just miserable to watch this happen, because it's, unless we have more Republicans with some balls, it's just nothing will happen, and we all know that.
Well, here's what what infuriates me is, Jim, I was working with a candidate for Indiana's 4th congressional district. He was running against Jim Baird. Jim Baird went out and voted for Joe Biden's $1.2 trillion spending bill, and then turned around and told us that he didn't. That he voted against it. He was against that. But his vote is clearly there. So when we pressed him on it, what does he do? He says, well, it was a mistake. I made a mistake. What are you going to do? Wow. And so the Freedom Caucus is calling for candidates. And so we contacted the Freedom Caucus. Come on, guys. We've got a good candidate down here. We need you to come help us do this. You're saying that you need great candidates. Get rid of the rhinos. Send the grassroots guys. Let's make some change. And we couldn't even get attention from them. And so I hear the people calling out at the top, and Jim, here's what I've been saying for the longest time. We're in 1775 in this nation. It's no different. If you look at what our founding fathers were doing, they were going to their government of the time and saying, hey, listen, we want the same rights and the same authority that our English brothers have in Great Britain. We don't want to be treated differently here. And it fell on deaf ears. And their government didn't do anything. And what did that result in? Well, what's the difference between 1775, where your government doesn't listen to you then, and in 2024, where they don't listen to us now?
Right. I think that's a great point, and I really don't know the difference. For a while I've been afraid that maybe Americans are too soft today. After COVID and after believing the crap that was fed us and taking all of that BS, we all know now that Gateway Pundit was right in all of our reports. The government was wrong in censoring our reports. But I thought maybe the Americans were too soft, but now I'm starting to think, no, I think there's some simmering rage in society right now that's kind of underneath the surface. And again, that's not just Trump supporters. I think that's a lot of what we're seeing in the minority communities right now. And I think maybe we'll see. I hope it happens at the ballot box. I hope there's such a great turnout that Democrats can't cheat. I think Democrats are pretty confident in what they put in place, though, which is frightening. But I do hope that there's enough people who have some guts to stand up against this tyranny that's really in front of our face right now. It's right there.
Well, I think one of the things that are happening is I've talked about it, you've talked about it, a bunch of pundits have talked about it. We talk about standing up against the tyranny, but I don't think that most people understand what that looks like. They don't understand, they don't have a history or their civics of understanding that the first thing that we do is we just don't comply. We don't have to do it. They have no authority. Am I off base here?
Yeah, I don't know how it looks, Tim. I really don't. I don't know what's going to happen, right? But I think you're right. I think enough people need to get furious at what's happening.
Well, I know the left is.
I think a good point is just what we learned yesterday, that they raided Donald Trump's home, Mar-a-Lago, back in 2022, and they were ready to kill. Right. They were going in there. They were packing heat, and they had even set up a triage. They were ready for a triage unit. They had maps to the urgent care that was down the street that they handed to everybody. They were ready for a firefight, and it's unbelievable. And this is they also were. I don't know if you heard this part yet, but when they raided Mar-a-Lago, they also had a plan to go to the guest rooms, because Mar-a-Lago has several. It's like a hotel. I don't know if that's the correct word, but they have guest rooms, and you rent the rooms just like a hotel. And they were ready to go into the guest rooms and scare the hell out of those people, and bring them out in zip ties. This is absolutely incredible. I did find out, and this is in our second report this morning, that they've been after this. They went in Melania's room, took lots of photos from Melania. Her suite, which is disgusting that they would do this to the First Lady, not to mention the most beautiful First Lady we've ever seen, such a gracious, lovely woman. And they went into her suite and took all these photos, including from binders, that she had some binders sitting there, took all these photos. And it goes back to what Gateway Pundit reported after the raid in 2022. And that was, they were after, what we had heard was this binder that was crossed by a hurricane that implicates Obama, his administration, in being behind this this attempted coup of Donald Trump. They're still looking for that, and I don't think they found it. So kudos to President Trump wherever he put it.
Yeah, you don't put it out on the dresser.
That's what they're looking for. What's that?
I said you don't put it out on the dresser. You don't put that kind of information out on the dresser. You put that in a safe space, hopefully. Jim, when we come back, let's talk about what a post-Trump presidency looks like. After the last 4 years that we've been going through, what do we expect, and what are Democrats expecting from a Trump presidency if this is allowed to happen? We'll talk about that right after this.
Kramer Says. We'll be right back after these messages. Kramer Says is everywhere. Twitter, Truth, Instagram, and always on America's fastest growing free speech platform, Kramer Says Social. Make your free account today at CramerSez.com. You're watching Kramer Says.
And welcome back. My guest today is Jim Hoft. Jim is going through and talking about what's happening on the planet here. As you know, Jim is the founder and editor of the Gateway Pundit. And Jim, one of the things that has come up in the last few days, we've got James Comey that we've talked about already, where we can see the fear in his eyes. He fears Trump coming back in because I think that he realizes he's going to be held accountable for the sins that he committed from 2016 through today. But also, we've got a ton of these pundits now coming on and saying that what they fear is that Trump's legacy will be the Supreme Court. Listen to this.
Think about the Supreme Court. If Donald Trump wins, he will almost certainly get 2 more appointments. By the end of Trump's term, second term were he to win, Thomas will be 82, Alito will be 78.
They're definitely retiring.
They're definitely retiring.
Trump wins again.
And it could be just KBJ, like holding down the fort.
And Justice Sotomayor will be 72 at the end of Trump's term. So he will definitely get 2 appointments. If he has 2 appointments, that means he will have appointed 5 Supreme Court justices, all of whom will be around or below the age of 60 when he leaves office. That is a court majority, a MAGA court majority that will rule for decades. We can win the next however many presidential elections.
I'm good with that.
Absent something sort of extraordinary happening, Trump's fingerprints will be all over the Supreme Court. And so I think we should make this a big issue. And we know this works because in 2016, that vacant Justice Scalia seat that McConnell held open was one reason, and you've heard this in a lot of focus groups and post-election surveys, that Republicans who did not like Trump at the last minute were willing to hold their nose and vote for Trump because they cared about the Supreme Court. So I think we can do that in reverse.
Thoughts? What do you think?
I think that's great that they're pointing it out, and I think it probably helps the Democrat cause. I think, though, in my belief is if that becomes a problem and if Trump does put in a couple more justices, there's no doubt in my mind these people would definitely expand the court, just like they've been saying, and they'd make some excuse, and they really don't care. They really just don't care. I think we're at that point, like you said earlier. They just play smash mouth. Marxists play smash mouth, and they don't really care what you think. They're just going to do what they're going to do. So if Trump wins this election, which he should, and I think it will be a major landslide, but we don't know what they're going to do on midnight after the election day. You know, we don't know how many more days they're going to be counting ballots. We don't know how many drop boxes they have to fill up, or how many, like as Gateway Pundit reported, how many vans are going to be driving into the vote counting centers after the polls close. So again, I think we have to. I think it's certain that Trump's going to win a fair election. I don't know if it's going to take place though, because Republicans are so weak, foolish, have no plan, and to counter the fraud, and Democrats are just willing to do anything, and they're getting good at their cheating. I mean, look at Arizona this past time. Yeah. They had an attorney general who is, if you've ever watched this woman, who's the current attorney general in Arizona, she's monotone. She has no personality. I hear she's a pretty radical, far left, attorney general. She's a candidate, and she beats this guy by 200 votes after a couple million. They got it down to a science where they could bring just 200 votes, and that's what she wins by. That's pretty scary if they're able to cheat like that. And certainly they did cheat. This woman, there's no way that this woman won. Just like there's no way that Carrie Lake lost.
Exactly.
To Hobbs, who they wouldn't even debate her.
I mean, look at how many Democrat races have been recalled here recently, where they go in front of a judge, and the judge goes, "There's so much cheating here. Well, we've got to redo the election." And then the Democrats want us to believe, well, we only do that in our own races. We would never cheat in a general with you guys. We would never do that. We would never manipulate the vote. I think that that's one of the things that scares people most, and I think that that's why we're on the brink in this country. You know, I look down the road a little bit farther, and I look at what we've seen so far. I know the history of this nation, and what scares me is that there's going to be this catalyst that creates a cascade event in this nation that gets out of control, that the people that want a certain path, they think that they're in control right now, and they don't understand what happens, the unintended consequences of your actions. Does that make sense? That something happens and it ignites in one city and then that goes across the entire nation. That's what concerns me, is that we are now in a position after 4 years of being pressured and pressured and pressured, is that that we're a powder keg, that people are ready to explode on the left and on the right. Everyone, a buddy of mine says, I'm just looking for a reason to fight because of the angst that they feel in the nation right now. Let's say Trump wins. Trump goes in, everything goes as planned, and what do you see in a post-Trump presidency or a post-Trump win? Does the nation settle down? Do we go back to getting along, or is it just stoking the fire for another 4 years and we're back off to the races?
Yeah, the left has no control, so we know the answer there. They're just going to keep going after Trump, going after him. They've tried everything against him now, so and they continue to lose on these lawfare cases, which must really bother them. But you know, they don't care; they'll find something else to sue him about. It's disgusting what they've done to President Trump. It's disgusting what they say about him. You know, like now they're talking about how he abused this one woman who Trump doesn't even know. They had to change the law to bring this case forward, and you know, and my suggestion to Trump is every time they mention that he should talk about Joe Biden showering with his daughter
exactly
at an appropriate age, and he should just go right there and just leave it at that, because you know, and their lies, people don't believe this woman. You know, it's just the people who just catch a few headlines that believe some of this stuff. But once, you know, I think everybody's questioning now, and I think a lot of that is because they're hurting so much with inflation. And I've heard a report that I may put up today about how the inflation is as bad as it's ever been under Joe Biden. Everybody feels that.
Yep.
You know, when I order from Grubhub or DoorDash, I can't believe how much it is now. Yep. For 2 people or 3 people, we're looking almost $80 to $100. That's insane. That's what's happening now, and everybody's feeling it. So I don't know. I think they've softened the American public. They've softened a lot of Republicans who are very afraid now because they see what happens to you when you stick your neck out. But I do think, Tim, that a lot of people are getting pretty fed up with this too, and I hope so, because we've seen how this works out in Marxist societies. Right. This is exactly where they're heading, and exactly what they're doing. Like you look at Brazil right now, they're putting this. We wrote about this this chieftain who's a native chieftain. They want to put him in jail now for 10 years because he protested. I mean, that's no different than what we see here. And yet, you know, what's shocking is it was actually the Biden administration who supported Lula, the socialist, the communist, who's implementing all of these policies. And the same thing's happening here. But we have a media that's so dishonest and despicable that they're not going to report that to the American public.
Do you think that that'll change? Trump comes in. Do you think that there'll be a clearing? Do you think that like CNN's numbers are in the tank? They can't get they can't buy an audience.
Yeah.
So do you think MSNBC and you know, the New York Times and the Washington Post, do you think that they're going to collapse under the weight of their lies and what they've done, the dishonesty? Nobody trusts them.
Well, you know, we certainly don't. But you know, last Trump presidency, it was a heyday for the fake news. You know, and they were able to push out BS after BS. It was very coordinated. We know now everything they do is very coordinated, so it was the golden years for the fake news when Trump was in, because they can control the narrative because they're all coordinating their stories together with the Democrat Party, and so I think they'll do very well again.
Really?
I don't, absolutely, because they will stir some crap up just like they did last time. Do you think that's changed? Well, I mean, we know they lie. A lot of people know they lie now because of COVID, but they still have their, faithful followers who are, going to come back and listen to them. And, I don't see that changing.
Well, it's amazing to me, and we've got idiots on the right, just like they've got on the left. But the depth of idiocy that they have on the left sometimes amazes me, that I hear time and time again that Trump is a rapist. Trump is a rapist. And now it's starting to be said by politicians that should know better, that there is no rape. There was never a rape. All right, this whole claim, and you started to hit on it earlier. I think it's interesting that the law that E. Jean Carroll used in New York is only for 6 months. You only had 6 months to use that law, right? And now it's being repealed, and the guy who was in charge of it, I can't remember what the DA that was in charge of that, has now said it was a mistake because it's being used against him now. And it's probably unconstitutional now that it's being used against him. So this whole house of cards that they've built over the last 6-7 years of telling the people on a daily basis that the conservatives are the ones robbing you of your rights. They're taking your wealth. And I think people are starting to wake up and go, wait a minute, I was richer under Trump. I would rather be robbed by Trump and the Republicans than robbed by the Democrats. I mean, that's what I think is starting to come. People are starting to be aware of. That when gas costs you $7 a gallon, or to your point, a meal that should be $30, $40 now costs you $100. That's a wake-up call. Look at all the stores that are closing. I don't know if you saw the number of retail outlets closing across the country, and they're screaming Bidenomics is working. Yeah.
Well, it's not, obviously, because the people are feeling something totally different. And I do think it's the economics that's going to come back and bite them in the ass. These Democrats, because it's so horrible. People on top are making a lot of money, but the working class, who Trump represents, and Trump alone represents this group. This isn't a Republican Party thing. This is Trump, right? Because we still have a lot of idiots in the Republican Party who, and I don't walk lockstep with them at all. I am completely Trump.
Yep.
I don't see any other candidate that I would just go, get the excitement. Except for Trump. Well, Carrie Lake, I do like Carrie Lake. Whatever she does, I would support that. But otherwise, this Republican Party is as lost as the Democrats. But Trump represents the working class. Trump represents from, I've heard a great analogy. This author who I interviewed, she says the Democrats today are the top, the upper crust, the elites, and the bottom of the ladder, the lower class who don't work. And she said, and everybody else is the working class, and Trump decided that that's who he was going to support. And maybe not consciously, but he supports these Americans, the working class, and that's why he has such immense appeal, because he's the only one who's doing it.
Yeah, that is, it's amazing to me. I'm on social media quite a bit, and I look at the trash that's being pushed out by all of these paid hacks, and now we know they're paid. It's all been divulged. And the people that are on there that are saying, oh, yeah, Joe Biden's doing great, Bidenomics is awesome. And I have to be a troll. Jim, I have to know. You have to tell me, how is he doing so good for you when everybody else is in pain? Why do you believe the lies? Even though, what is it? Don't trust your lying. Trust me. Don't trust your lying eyes. That's almost what they're asking us to do, is to gaslight ourselves. And it's amazing that they spend so much time and so much effort selling, and nobody has to do that for Trump. Nobody has to sell Trump, right? I mean, that's the beauty of it. I don't have to go and defend Trump. Listen, you can say whatever you want to say. It was just better under Trump. Gas prices were lower. Energy was lower. Food prices were lower, and we weren't all trying to kill each other. You wanted to kill us, but we had no desire against you. That's been changed, I think. I think that these policies have wakened people up to say, listen, when you've got people from China and Cuba and Venezuela and Argentina coming here and saying, hey, listen, I left that country because of what they were doing, and what they were doing is exactly what's being done here. Wake up. And I'm hoping enough people see that and start to realize that what we've gone through for the last 7 years is not normal.
Right, absolutely. Well, I hope you're right, and we will see. But I think we know where the people stand right now. That's very clear.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your appearance at the Bronx tomorrow, and then let's talk about Waka Flocka in Miami. So tomorrow is the Bronx, and
right.
And what that's the Trump's rally in the Bronx, correct?
Yeah. This is unprecedented. This is Trump going down to the Bronx, a Republican in the Bronx, which again is the bluest of all the boroughs. Is the Bronx? It voted 83% for Joe Biden. They voted that way, right? Or at least the
enemy territory is what they call that.
Yeah. And you know, this started with our reporter, again, Kara Castronova, who went down there and started interviewing people, and she was shocked that everybody was like, yeah, I want Trump, and they're saying things like, with Trump, I had $20 in my pocket. Right. They're like, I can't even go in the store and use $20, and buy what I need. So they understand. And she went back then and did another interview round with people on the street and said, would you go to a Trump rally? They're like, yeah, I'd go. I'd love to go. I'll be in line. I'd love to do that. So Trump decided to hold this rally. He announced it last week. It's at a park in the Bronx, and the doors open at 3. The rally starts. Trump's supposed to speak at 6. He's generally late, so we'll see. 6 Eastern. But then we're having a couple reporters. Kara Castronova, of course, who's been down to the Bronx. She grew up in New York. She has a pretty obvious New York accent. And then Jordan Conradson, who is coming up from Baltimore. He's going to be with her. And then we have a guest host who's going to be with those guys. And they're going to be reporting from outside of the venue, talking to people on the street, talking to people in line who are going in to see Trump. So it's going to be quite an event. I think they're expecting right now 10,000, wow. But Tim,
right.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's 30 or 50,000 to show up. Really,
I expect the same. Based on what we saw coming out of New Jersey, I don't think the blue strongholds are as stronghold as they think they are. Let's talk about Waka Flocka in Miami. So, what's this event? What's the? You said it's a series of concerts. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So get this. So this group comes to us, and it's New Gen 47. And that's the name of the group. And they've organized recently, and they are going to do several concerts around the U.S., Tim, in the battleground states. And what they have lined up is top rappers who are coming out for Trump. Think of that, Tim. Top rappers. I mean, we've even seen Snoop Dogg go from having his shooting video against Trump to now he's saying, I think we need Trump.
Well,
right?
Michael Rappaport is another example. Michael Rappaport. He was no fan of Trump, and now he said that he's not backing Biden at all. He's behind Trump. I think you're seeing this flip. So
yeah. I think a lot of that is because of the Jewish community who can no longer stand the Democrats, and I've heard that from my Jewish friends who said their families are completely against Democrats now. It just took Joe Biden to do that, and Barack Obama, of course, who's pulling the strings. So the first concert is June 14th. It's in Miami. It's Waka Flocka Flame, who's very, very successful rapper. So his concert's going to be there in Miami, Florida, in a theater that's 5,000 seats. They're thinking they've already sold over 1,000 without even advertising much yet. So this is the first one. Waka Flocka has come out in support of Trump before. And so he's expected to say more at his concert. And so this is number one. This is the first concert. We heard when they came to us that there was going to be 6 concerts, maybe 5 or 6, but now it looks like it may be over a dozen.
Oh, wow.
So, and these are going to be in every one of the battleground states. So we're talking, and I shouldn't probably say much yet, but several of the cities in these battleground states that it'll be very blue areas, and that's where these people are going, and the lineup is going to be exceptional.
Well, where can people get tickets? Is there a website that they can sign up for or get more information?
For the Waka Flocka concert, we have that on Gateway Pundit. I need to post that up. I'll do that today.
Okay.
Put it off of here and add that to our Bronx post so people would know where to go to get tickets.
Perfect. Yep. Well, Jim, thank you so much for joining me today. It's always a pleasure. We'll have to do this more often.
Tim, you're a force. You're really good at what you do. So,
I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Okay. All right.
Bye-bye.
America's political prisoners need our help. CramerSez is on a mission to raise $100,000 or more. Can you help? Join our mission today at CramerSez.shop. CramerSez is everywhere. Twitter, Truth, Instagram, and always on America's fastest growing free speech platform, CramerSez Social. Make your free account today at CramerSez.com. CramerSez is back in 3, 2,